Welcome back to Disturbing the Priest. Today I'm joined by the boys. We got Jeff, David, and Fred on the road here, Kings of Thrash. Great to see you guys. How's everything going?
Great. Fantastic. We just, our first show in America, we just came out of Canada.
Yeah.
3 shows there. We had not been there before as a band. It was fantastic.
How were you received in Canada?
Great.
Awesome.
Great. It was super good.
The mosh pits, especially the second night in Montreal, was out of control. Guy doing a Jesus Christ pose, just crowd surfing, hitting the ceiling, debris coming down on the crowd, and they loved it.
Yeah, it was like full on 1988, like we remember it from back in the original So Far So Good So What tour.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Canada has a great thrash scene. It's crazy. Like these kids in their early 20s, they're wearing the kicks, they're wearing all the gear.
Yeah.
You know, thrash is very alive and well, and seeing the shows you guys are doing, it just goes to show that the scene is still alive and kicking.
You know, things go around in these cycles, right? So it was not in vogue in the 90s, almost died of a near-death experience for thrash.
Right.
You know, and then in the 2000s, when Lamb of God and Killswitch Engage and Trivium and all those bands revived it. And then, you know, things go in these cycles. I mean, So Far So Good So What is almost 40 years, right? It's a couple more years, it'll be 40 years. So we find going back and playing, I mean, that's an origin story for me and Jeff, you know, our first musical encounter together, you know, and then coming in and when we launched the band, we did that. We played Killing Is My Business. Then we did P-Cells down in Australia. And we started dipping into the 90s a little bit just to, you know, kind of go into Euthanasia. We were over there a couple years ago, and it just happened to be the Euthanasia 30th anniversary. So we decided to dip into that album a little bit. So, you know, that's our thing. We play deep cuts and never before heard or maybe never again played songs. That's what we do.
I saw you guys played, I believe, Victory it was, and Reckoning Day, which great cuts.
Yeah.
Is that where you see the mega years kind of stopping, or like when it comes to reunion of a record, do you see yourself dipping into that? Will we ever? What I'm trying to say is, will we ever see Insomnia played live from you guys?
From Risk? Is that's what you're trying to say. I don't know. I mean, you know, it's look when that album hits 40, maybe we will. That's probably
Crush and Wanderlust. Yeah.
You know,
great album. Just want to say,
I think, look, this thing started just because of, you know, Jeff and I, when he called me to come out to LA to play at the Ultimate Jam Night, I said, of course, I'll be right out, but we have to play Mary Jane, because that was really, it was a standout track on that album. It's one that Megadeth, I think the last time Megadeth played it was in Japan in 1991, and it was only because we had to play 90 minutes, and we just started pulling songs out to fill the set length, right? We'd been on tour, but we'd been supporting Judas Priest. We were playing Clash of the Titans. These are like 60-minute sets, and we needed more songs. Like, oh, shit, all right, what else we got? How about Mary Jane, you know? So, but, you know, that was really kind of a centerpiece, I think, of that record.
Sure.
Jeff's, you know, I don't know, was that
My favorite?
What was the first solo you played on that record?
Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour, okay. And then,
Mary Jane's probably a favorite for me as well. Yeah.
It's a ripper. I got to get my kind of gypsy flamenco chops in there, because a lot of these metal progressions, especially when you go to E to F, it's the same cadence that they use in flamenco. So the same scales and phrasing works over both.
Right.
And once again, showing us not how different we are as people and cultures, but how we are one, right?
Of course. And I'm very excited to celebrate the mega years. I do want to talk about Bullets Ready, the new song that's out now. It's a ripper. I was talking to Jeff before, and the cover's also sick. The bullets forming the skull and all that. I've read
Fred does all the artwork, so
I heard so was that like an idea from Jeff, or was that all you?
Well, I also work for Cleopatra Records, so we kind of went back and forth with the idea what the cover was going to be, and once we got to this skull made out of bullets, that was the one. We were like, this is killer. You know, send it to the guys. They loved it. So it was pretty easy. It was pretty easy to get to that cover, and we also got a new logo in there that is it's pretty metal.
It's badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I read a little bit up on the single, but what can you guys tell me about the new single that's out now?
You seen the Nick Menza documentary?
Yes.
His manager, quasi-manager, contacted me when they first filmed, or they were starting talking about filming that, and sent me like 4 loops of Nick just playing drums. Each loop was maybe 60 seconds, a minute and a half. And there was one beat that I really resonated with, which became the basis of Bullets Ready. So in essence, I was composing riffs with Nick from Beyond the Grave. So I wrote the intro, verse, chorus, and just a sketch. And I sent it to the manager dude, and he's like, yeah, man, that's killer. I love it. Why didn't you save a place for the guitars from Death Angel to put a solo on that? I was like, dude, the song's not even composed. Why don't you let us decide how we're going to? So I kind of yanked it and held it back. And flash forward, David and I, the first thing we did was we started writing together originals. We weren't even intending to ever play Megadeth tunes. We had 4 tunes written before the Whiskey Ultimate Jam appeared on the horizon. One of them was Bullets Ready with no title or lyrics. So that was demoed like right when we reconvened. I remember the night before filming in LA, we were paying the bill at the Rainbow, and Dave was standing up looking at the check, and I whispered and started singing this riff to another song that he and I had worked on called Bridges Burn years ago. Like, it was supposed to be on Rust in Peace. We were writing songs for what would become Rust in Peace. That song, I that was so hooky, even though I lost the cassette tape of our demo, the riff stuck in my head for all those years because it was just so memorable. I sang it to him. He said, dude, I totally remember that lick. We got to get in a room and work this stuff up. And that's how Innocent it started. I came in with that in the Bullets Ready riff, and we demoed it up. And then 2 months later, he came in with a couple killer riffs that we're about to embark on. We finished those demos. So we've had 4 songs sitting on the back burner for 3 and some years. And actually, we probably composed over an album together.
For sure. Yeah. And it's funny because we had Mike Heller, who's in Raven. He was playing with me in the Lucid at the time. We went to his studio downtown LA, and he helped, just kind of get that stuff on tape for us. It's funny with Bullets Ready. We were on our first U.S. tour back in 24? 20, yeah. And we were going through Buffalo, New York, and we pulled into town. We were getting off the bus to go get some breakfast, and there's this fire behind us. We thought, oh, that's weird. And all this, there fire trucks coming down. And as we went and got breakfast, as we were walking back, we were like, holy shit, it's like a full-blown inferno, right? I mean, fire trucks. I mean, it was just like a 9-alarm call, right? Like every fire truck in the county was there, and it was an old what was it? It was
a costume factory, like for theater that happened in town, burned to the ground. Our show got canceled that night because they blocked off the whole thing, the whole blocks, and no one could get in to get to the show.
So we decided we'd go up and grab an Uber and go up to Niagara Falls, which is like a half hour up the road, right? So as we pinged an Uber and we're waiting for this guy, like, where is this fucking guy? And as we're waiting, we're walking across, we started talking about the song. And this lyric hit me, we're like, shots fired in the dead of night. So we all started kind of throwing lyrics out, and I started putting them in my phone. That's how I write songs. I put them in
like the Notes app or something?
My notepad.
Right.
It's about unsophisticated. Because it's just about capturing the idea. And we had it. We got really excited about it. And so it's interesting that was where that started, Bullets Ready.
And what was cool about this song is as the tour went on, when we were backstage or a little time after sound check, and we're not doing interviews with fine folks like you, we'd come back to the lyrics and we'd listen, and we were all 4 collaborate on that song, which is great. The funniest part was when we played King of Clubs in Columbus, Chaz was wearing the Mustaine bullet belt. That night, he was getting dressed, literally put it on. He goes, all right, guys, Bullets Ready. Dude, that's the title
like
of the song moment, right there. That's how the title.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. We all had a hand in the lyrics, and often it's one person in the band that writes the lyrics. Like, say, Rush, it's usually Neil Peart. So it was really cool that we kind of volleyballed it with the band. And then, of course, when Gabriel came in, we gave it to him, and he changed a bunch and sculpted it and added some as well on top of that. So it's a real collaboration lyrically. And with the subject matter, it was great that we all got to put our feelings into it because it's something that's affecting everyone on this planet. You
Right.
know, all wars are bankers' wars, and we all see what's going around, and it ain't pretty.
Especially in this day and age too, you know. And the song, it feels like a super group with everyone in it. Zetro also on that. So how did that collaboration come to be specifically?
You know, we were talking about different people to get involved in it, and the idea for Zetro, did you bring that up? I forgot if maybe you or maybe, yeah, I think Fred brought it up actually, and I said, yeah, because we'd had Zetro's kids, they have a band called Hatriot, and they'd been out on tour with us, God, for like a year. They were like, yeah, they were up.
And we love those
Yeah,
kids. They
yeah.
were great, man. So it
Yep.
was kind of a natural, organic.
Yeah, and Zetro, I've known him been buds with him for years. He sang with Metal Allegiance, and and then moving on from Exodus, it's I know that feeling to move on from a big band, right? And I was like, dude, get on a mic, like throw a vocal on this for us,
Right.
So he was excited. He was very appreciative that because those transitions can be odd, right? And of course we're friends with Exodus and fans of Exodus work. But so for Zed, I thought, when Fred mentioned, I go, God, he would be a perfect sound for that. So it was good to bring him in. Yeah, we met Gabriel, through Red Devil Vortex. That we
met him at the Ultimate Jam, and this is the funniest thing. I stood across the room, in the Ultimate Jam, we're all backstage and upstage, and there's sometimes 100 musicians on stage, and you don't meet them all. And I'd seen them, but I'd never met. And we ended up working together and doing some shows together with my band. Then his band, Red Devil Vortex, ended up opening for Kings of Thrash. They have the same agent as we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we did a whole U.S. tour, and Ace Frehley had passed away, and Kiss is one of Gabriel's favorite bands, if not his. So we would bring Gabriel up every night for Cold Gin on the Encore. So it naturally and organically flowed out of that. And incidentally, we can drop the bomb right now that we're going to be dropping a live video. I think it was Cincinnati. We captured the audio and the video of us doing Cold Gin, so that's
Sweet.
going to be coming soon on the Kings of Thrash YouTube.
And it's funny because Jeff, he sent it over to me right before we came out of the tour. He goes, hey, can you just give this a listen and whatever if we need to touch anything up on it? And I heard it. I went, damn, we played good. We sounded really good. It was one of those tracks. It was like, man, we really sounded good that night. And that's just a band on the road. For my first book I wrote, Making Music Your Business, I interviewed a bunch of people, Will Lee, Tori Amos, and I got a chance to interview Joey Ramone. I still have the cassette at home in my drawer, right? I was like, this is like a priceless cassette. And one of the things he goes, the road is where the band grows. And I was like, fuck, if anyone would know, it would be him, right? That band just were tireless road dogs. And I thought about that because the more, any band that we've ever been in, the more you're on the road, the more you play, the better you get, the tighter you get. I've noticed it even on this tour, just things like naturally start clicking together when we've done a lot. We've been around the world. We're going around the world a second time now. We were over in Europe. We did.
Were you in Australia?
Did Australia twice.
Twice.
We went
Wow.
to Japan here a couple of months ago, back in February. We're heading down to Colombia here in a couple of weeks. We're heading to Norway, the UK, Ireland, Northern Ireland. We're doing all. And so it's just amazing. It's like the phone rings, we go, and look, the fans like to hear this stuff, And what's kind of cool about it, we play. When Megadeth started, when any band starts, you play, smaller rooms. This music works perfect in those smaller rooms. As the band
Right.
got bigger, the rooms changed, the sound of the band needed to change. It just kind of naturally happens, right? And you sort of expand your repertoire. But for us to go back to this, and then now I think writing tunes together, we were just talking about right before we came down for this. We've got a few songs. We're getting some game plans of how we're going to finish them up. It's exciting because, people are kind of like, well, what do we call you guys? You're not like a tribute band because there's OGs in the band. So, but
There's more original members in this band than
There's
the actual Megadeth.
There's a clever twist on it. It's like Spinal Tap, a fine line between clever and stupid.
Right.
So
You put two OGs, and that's cool. You got the two OGs with David and me as the pillars and the young guns up the center. And it just worked out by accident. And
It's
we
awesome.
didn't mention that although Heller was demoing with us at first on the originals when we did the Ultimate Jam Night, I might have met you in passing, but I didn't even see Fred play, but he did the Slayer tune. So I saw him a couple days later on YouTube. And the second I saw him playing, we were sitting in the room. I go, there's our drummer right there.
Yeah, Jeff is like, that's our drummer right there. So that's it's funny how the universe, the Lord, however you believe, brings the right people, the right situations, and the right things together, and things, we've all tried to force, man, I want to work with that person, or I want to do this, and they don't, it doesn't click, it doesn't come together. And then out of nowhere, something like this just falls in your lap. And that's when it's meant to be, and it's sort of like the channel is opened for all of the sustenance of it to happen. The tours, the musical opportunities, the creative camaraderie that happens from it, and it's nice that we've got a pretty deep catalog. Even when we're not on the road, we're always working on songs. We've been in the studio working on stuff. So, working like a real band, not just a band out playing songs of our past.
Right.
We're also working on songs of our future.
Which also, those Megadeth songs you guys also worked on. So it's like, it's not a cover band,
No.
So, before we wrap things up here, I do want to ask like a nerdy question. So the band Child Saint, apparently, I guess Dave was jamming with them, and then they took the Rust in Peace riff and tried to turn that into their own song, Child Saint, by the band Child Saints. And I believe you heard it on the radio with Dave, and it was like, oh shit moment. Is that true?
Well, we had a song. I seem to remember Dave had a song called Child Saint. Like he'd randomly whiz off these working titles, like Devil's Island was called Don't Get Mad, Get Even. Skull Beneath the Skin was called, I forgot what it was. Self-Destruct. There was these working titles. Set the World Afire was called No Survivors. That was when my friend Greg, we were reading the lyrics, and he goes, dude, we got to call the band Megadeth. Dave hated the name. He didn't even want to call it that. He wanted to call it Fallen Angel because he had a name already, right? And then somewhere in there's like Child Saint. I remember that came up. I don't remember a band.
Took the song because Dave jammed it, and Dave's like, I don't know what to do with this riff. You can just have it. So they named their whole band Child Saints.
Dave would never say that.
Well, that's why I'm asking you.
You can just have the riff. Okay, that is a lie.
Oh, God. We'll look it up. Child Saint by Child Saint.
But whoever said that.
Of course.
Or I'll use Jeff's line, misinformation. That's a more polite way.
Well, us new fans, we're all detectives here trying to piece together, okay, who's right,
where's this
who's
band
wrong.
Child Saint from?
LA.
Really?
Yeah, their big song was called Child Saint. It's literally Rust in Peace, the song.
Really?
The same riff and everything, yeah. Like the
Which, by the way, that was not called Rust in Peace. It was called Polaris. That was when we did the demo with Chuck Beeler.
We were rehearsing Polaris on the Dio tour. We were rehearsing no lyrics. We were playing Holy War's Punishment Due in entirety and Polaris in its entirety with Chuck Beeler and soundtrack on the Dio tour.
And then we demoed it. Yeah, Jeff had already moved on. I mean, the band was kind of splintering apart at that point, late '88, right? So Jeff had already moved on, and we still had Chuck in the band, and we demoed Polaris, and it was, I mean, Dave told the story that he was driving to the studio and he saw May All Your Warheads Rust in Peace. That's when it became Rust in Peace Polaris, because Polaris is the warhead. So that's where that became the two, the title, Rust in Peace Polaris.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I hope all these warheads today rust in peace, and it's great talking to you guys. And
it's ready.
Right, it's ready, which is out now. Check it out. It's streaming. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I cannot wait to see the show.
Yeah.
They're on the road right now. Please go see Kings of Thrash. I'm Brandon Battick, and this has been Disturbing the Priest.
And see.
It's death. I've just seen death.